Welcome to Viva La Vulva, the podcast that explores and teaches about the goodness of the vulva. Here is your host, Dr. Cara Quant, an internal medicine doctor and advocate for female sexual health.
Hello, and welcome to the Viva La Vulva podcast. I am your host, Dr. Cara Quant. There's people who come in all the time, and I have to educate and re-educate about some myths that they have heard. So I want to come on and dispel some of these myths for you all because I feel like it is really important. I am debunking an understanding of our health. So things that we can leave in 2025 and take anew in 2026, which brings me to my next myth, talking about our immune system, how to truly support our immune system through foods, which is so important, why inflammation matters, and how to reduce it naturally. In my practice, I prescribe antibiotics all the time. Like on a daily basis, I'm prescribing all types of antibiotics, amoxicillin to Bactrim to macrobid for things like UTIs and skin infections and respiratory infections for certain people. Everyone comes in thinking that they need an antibiotic after the third day of being sick, which is not usually the case. But antibiotics are only helpful for bacterial infections. Let me repeat that. They're only good for bacterial infections. They're not good for viruses. If you have a runny nose and a sore throat and coughing and body aches and chills and things like that, it's more likely that you have a virus than bacteria. And if you go to a good provider, doctor, physician assistant, nurse practitioner, they should not prescribe you antibiotics during the first couple days of your illness, especially because antibiotics are overly prescribed and overly used when they are not necessarily need to be used. So antibiotics are not the end all be all. Sorry to break it to you. I would totally recommend prevention rather than what is the best prescription. It is boosting your immune system. And what is better than boosting your immune system? It is the foods that you're eating. Your fork is one of the most powerful tools in fighting infections, if you can believe it or not. I feel like I've been hearing a lot of information about gut health and how our gut health is basically equal to our immune system. And I totally believe that. The good bacteria that are in our gut really do reflect into how we fight infection. And so 70 to 80% of our immune system is in our gut. Technically, our gut is our second brain, but it has so much of a microbiome of good bacteria that can really help with fighting infections. The gut microbiome trains and regulates the immune response, and the diversity of gut bacteria correlates with a better immune function. So what are things that can help with supporting our immune function? I feel like we've all heard about these things called probiotics, right? The definition of a probiotic is a microorganism introduced into the body for its beneficial qualities. So it's an actual microorganism that we ingest and it gets into our guts. So things like kombucha and fermented foods, things like sauerkraut and kimchi and miso and yogurts with live cultures. All of those things are technically probiotics. So they help with introducing something into our system that supports it, and it helps to fight off bad bacteria. And it helps, like I said, with supporting our immune system. And so I definitely recommend aiming for a serving daily of kimchi, the yogurt, the sauerkraut, something like that to help with boosting your immune system. If you can't do these natural foods, then supplements can help. But I would say overall, it is better to have a food ingested that brings you minerals and probiotics and all of the things rather than an actual supplement. I will get to this, the supplements, in just a second, but the supplement system, there's so much variation in it. So I would say what is best is to get your nutrients, to get your vitamins with food rather than relying on supplements. But sometimes we can't get those because we don't eat certain foods. So, things like meats, where you can get iron, iron supplements are okay. There are still foods that you can get iron from that are plant-based, but I'm just giving you an example. It is always better to eat the food rather than take the supplement. Other things that can help with feeding bacteria that's already in our guts is something called prebiotics. I know when I've heard this before, I've been like, oh my God, it's just so much stuff. Probiotics versus prebiotics versus, I think there's postbiotics. But prebiotics are basically things that are like food for the bacteria in our gut. So things like garlic and onions and asparagus and banana, especially if it's slightly green, oats, apples. These feed the good bacteria that we already have. I usually recommend to target about 25 to 35 grams of fiber daily. Fiber is so important for our bodies. It definitely helps with reducing constipation. So things like Metamucil or stool softeners, I always am prescribing or recommending. But if you get a good amount of fiber in your diet, that can help with naturally going to the bathroom and reducing your risk of constipation and things that can happen further down the line, like diverticulosis and diverticulitis, which are pouches that develop in the colon over time because of lack of fiber and pushing when you have a bowel movement, and those little pouches can get inflamed and cause something called diverticulitis. So in order to prevent that, taking fiber is an amazing thing that you can do, again, naturally, with things like apples and leafy green vegetables and different things like that have fiber in it. That is good to ingest. What else can support our immune system? Well, vitamin C. I feel like, we always hear about vitamin C helping our immune systems. It acts as an antioxidant and essentially supports our white blood cell function. And our white blood cells are vital for fighting different types of infections like bacterial infections and viral infections and essentially all of the infections. It is better absorbed from food, again, rather than supplements. So things that have vitamin C, citrus fruits, bell peppers, strawberries, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. This is definitely not an exhaustive list. But just some examples of things that have vitamin C in them. Other things that can help with supporting our immune system is zinc, which is an essential mineral, and it's essentially critical for immune cell development as well as the communication between the immune cells. And there was a recent meta-analysis that was published in 2024 showing that zinc does not prevent the common cold, but it can help with reducing the duration of symptoms. Definitely recommend, zinc and vitamin C in foods. So things that have zinc are things like oysters and beans and nuts and whole grains and pumpkin seeds and chickpeas and cashews. So again, you don't need a zinc supplement. You can take zinc naturally, and that can help with boosting your immune system. The next thing that can do it is vitamin D. We normally get it through the sun, but we generally don't get it a lot, especially in the winter time when sun exposure is limited. So things that have vitamin D naturally are fatty fish, so salmon, and sardines, egg yolks, some fortified dairy. Also, consider supplementing vitamin D, especially in the winter time. 1,000 to 2,000 I use daily. can help with supporting your immune system. And you definitely want to talk about it with your doctor, who can check a vitamin D level on you and see if you're within the appropriate range. And to my melanated people, we don't get as much vitamin D because of our melanin. And so we are usually deficient in vitamin D. So definitely going to your provider to ask for testing for vitamin D levels and seeing if you need to have supplements to help with getting your vitamin D levels up to par. Because it's so important for these vitamins and minerals to be in our body. And it helps with our immune system plus many other things. Bone function. You definitely want to eat the rainbow. So eating colorful vegetables, which have these things called phytonutrients, can produce in color some immune modulating effects. So again, eating the rainbow throughout the week can help. Dark leafy green vegetables, berries, bell peppers, especially the orange and the yellow. All of those things can help with supporting our immune system. And I'm currently doing a cleanse. I'm doing a cleanse right now. And I am incorporating so many of those into my life. I'm generally, I would say, vegetarian. Sometimes I like some fish every once in a while and shrimp and salmon and things like that. But I would say usually I'm doing vegetarian, but there's so much good information about plant-based, eating things, from the ground, limiting the amount of animal products that you bring into your body, have been really proving so helpful for our general health, decreasing our cholesterol, decreasing our weight, helping with improving blood pressure, atherosclerosis in our blood vessels. So there's so many good benefits of plant-based, which is the cleanse that I'm doing right now, among other things. But I would, consider a plant-based way of living to incorporate into your daily life. Now, thanks for joining me today on the Viva La Vulva podcast. I am your host and internal medicine physician, Dr. Cara Quant. If you like this podcast, please let others know and subscribe. Also, if you want to hear more information about what's happening with Viva La Vulva, pop over to our website at vivalavulvala.org and sign up for our newsletter.